The headline screamed, "Beef banned, chaos in the aisles." News channels ran non-stop coverage, showing frantic shoppers and empty shelves, while social media exploded with confusion and outrage. Overnight, what seemed unthinkable had become reality. America's ranchers found themselves on the brink, their livelihoods suddenly in jeopardy. Generations of cattle farmers, who had weathered droughts and market crashes, now faced a crisis unlike any before. By fall 2025, the beef section in supermarkets across the country was empty, replaced by signs blaming supply chain disruptions. Shoppers wandered the aisles in disbelief, searching for answers and alternatives. Prices for the few remaining packages soared, turning beef into a luxury overnight. Only the wealthiest could afford what was once a staple of the American dinner table. In Dallas, a mother of 3 stared at barren shelves, her grocery list useless. She wondered how she would feed her family, and what she could substitute for their favorite meals. This scene played out from Los Angeles to New York, families forced to rethink dinner and budgets. Parents explained to confused children why hamburgers and tacos were suddenly off the menu. The sudden scarcity felt like an attack on the American way of life. For many, beef was more than food, it was tradition, culture, and comfort. People demanded answers, but the real story was coming from across the northern border. Rumors swirled and frustration grew as officials struggled to explain the unfolding disaster. This wasn't a temporary shortage, it was a new international crisis that caught everyone off guard. The shockwaves rippled through communities, businesses, and dinner tables alike. Ontario, one of America's biggest trading partners, had just slammed the door shut on U.S. beef. Trucks were stopped at the border, and officials scrambled to negotiate. That single act triggered a crisis, threatening livelihoods and shaking the foundation of global trade. Meetings stretched late into the night as leaders searched for solutions. For the first time in decades, the American agricultural machine looked vulnerable. Fields once full of cattle now stood eerily empty, and uncertainty hung in the air. The world was watching, and the future was uncertain. As the crisis deepened, everyone wondered, how long would this last, and what would America do next? The crisis began with a bold announcement from Ontario's premier: an immediate ban on all U.S. beef imports. The reason? Public health and consumer protection. Ontario cited 3 issues: the use of growth hormones banned elsewhere, unclear labeling, and poor traceability in the U.S. cattle system. They demanded beef raised to higher standards, with full transparency from farm to fork. Ontario's move resonated with consumers and set a new bar for entry into its market. The U.S. beef industry was unprepared for these demands. This wasn't a negotiation, it was a line in the sand. Overnight, a regional dispute became a North American crisis. The shockwaves were just beginning. Ontario's ban on U.S. beef quickly became more than just a local policy. It set a precedent that the world would soon follow. The announcement sent shockwaves through the international community, as governments everywhere watched closely to see what would happen next. In a matter of days, Japan, citing the same health and safety concerns, suspended all U.S. beef imports. The move was swift and decisive, signaling a new era of caution in global food trade. Germany responded by calling for an urgent, EU-wide review of beef imports, while the United Arab Emirates halted all incoming shipments. The domino effect was unmistakable, as more countries joined the growing list. One by one, nations closed their doors, feeding a powerful narrative that U.S. beef was suddenly unsafe. The world's trust in American agriculture was shaken overnight. American diplomats scrambled to contain the fallout, holding emergency meetings and making urgent calls to allies. But the damage was already done, and confidence was hard to restore. Container ships loaded with beef were turned away from ports worldwide, forced to circle at sea or return home with their cargo untouched. Cold storage facilities across the U.S. overflowed with unsellable product, as warehouses filled to capacity and workers struggled to find space for the mounting surplus. The just-in-time global supply chain, once a marvel of efficiency, collapsed in a matter of weeks. Supermarket shelves went empty, and trucks stalled at border checkpoints with nowhere to go. The United States, once the world's undisputed agricultural powerhouse, suddenly found itself on the defensive, its farmers and ranchers watching the crisis unfold in disbelief. What started as a single decision in Toronto had now spiraled into a full-blown logistical and diplomatic nightmare, with global repercussions that no one had anticipated. The American beef industry, once a symbol of strength and reliability, now found itself at the epicenter of a global storm, uncertain, embattled, and searching for answers in a world that had turned away. The global ban devastated America's heartland. Ranchers watched cattle prices collapse and years of work vanish. Meat plants scaled back, layoffs spread, and supporting industries suffered. Farmers lost their main customers for feed crops, truckers lost contracts, rural communities faced economic ruin as jobs disappeared, families struggled with higher prices and lost livelihoods. The American dream felt out of reach for many. Ranchers felt betrayed, targeted by a crisis they didn't create. The fields of the West, once symbols of prosperity, became landscapes of anxiety. The pain was personal, and the future uncertain. As the U.S. reeled from the sudden shock to its agricultural sector, Canada saw a rare and powerful opportunity and seized the moment with determination. With its reputation for clean, traceable beef and rigorous safety standards, Canada quickly stepped up to fill the gap, becoming the world's new and trusted supplier almost overnight. Buyers from Japan, Germany, and the UAE, who once relied on American beef, now turned north, eager to secure deals with Canadian producers and ensure a steady supply for their own markets. Canadian ranchers responded by ramping up production at an unprecedented pace, expanding herds and investing in new technology, fueling an economic boom that rippled through rural communities and beyond. Canada's government and industry leaders worked together to market their beef as the safer, more transparent choice, highlighting strict regulations and traceability from farm to table. What began as a crisis for one nation became a historic opportunity for another, as Canada's beef industry soared to new heights and set a global example. For the U.S., it was a harsh and humbling lesson in the need for greater transparency, higher standards, and the importance of maintaining global trust in food safety. The long-held belief in American agricultural dominance was suddenly shattered, leaving many to question the future of the industry and the country's place in global trade. The beef ban proved that trust and consumer confidence are as vital as any trade deal, shaping the choices of buyers and the fate of entire industries. In the end, the empty shelves of 2025 served as a stark reminder to the world. In global trade, trust isn't just important, it's everything. Without it, even the strongest can fall.